Ambition and Avarice 2nd Edition is an OSR rule set with a focus on player development. It's been specifically designed to support player-driven sandbox-style campaign with maximum choice so that the player can increase their own competence and ability. This mission is founded in 7 pillars. Pillar 1 is a clear philosophy of play. The entire first chapter is devoted to teaching the right mindset to approach old school play with a focus on player skill. This chapter will bridge the gap for players that are coming from a superhero style modern role playing game design and teach them how to engage in old school gaming. Pillar 2 is a simple character basis. The entire character design is based on having a simple basis that opens up with player choice. Racial choices have a minor effect with no negative impact, allowing you to comfortably combine them with any class that you choose. If you want to be an orc wizard, that's totally cool. Class choices grant a unique class ability called an expertise, such as the ability of an enchanter to mesmerize humanoids with a gaze attack. These powerful abilities give extraordinary niche protection and allow every member of the party to have a major impact on the game. Each class also grants a +2 bonus to identify something, from plants to diseases to heraldry, and the game uses a classic weapon proficiency system to create variations in equipment but allow you to easily pick up a particular weapon if you're fond of it. Each class also has a unique follower type, from the imp-like pucks that a conjurer can use as magical servants to a knave spies that can be sent out to check up on your enemies. These are guaranteed retainers, unless you abuse them, that magnify the character's ability to impact the world. Non-magical characters get character points at level up to customize their advancement. They can choose to spend these points to gain extra hit points, proficiencies, skills, saving throw bonuses, or raise their attack bonus across the board. Magical characters, of course, advance in spell casting, with 3 prepared casters learning magic from spellbooks and 3 spontaneous casters learning magic from the deity, demigod, or spirits instead. And with a large number of spells available, players can customize their spellcasters to have a unique impact on the world. There are no future levels to plan, with decisions at first level and expert classes to pick up. You might struggle to pick from a wealth of options. There's 10 races, 12 classes, and choosing from about 25 possible spells at first level if you decide to be a spellcaster. But once play begins, you are who you are. At level up, you get better at those things. You have a strong niche, and you can roleplay within it. You succeed by being a better player, not by finding the right combination of min-max powers to carry the day. Pillar 3 is equipment choice. For example, each weapon has its own unique strengths. A great axe and a great sword, statistically identical in most RPGs, offers a compelling choice here. The great sword has a bit of reach and allows the wielder to make aimed thrusts in combat with a bonus. However, the great axe is easier to make and carries a much lower price tag. When the average character is starting with about 175 gold pieces, the choice between a 50 gold piece great axe and a 150 gold piece greatsword is actually a serious decision. And it just starts there. Rapier gives an armor class bonus because of its superior blocking ability, while the trident isn't just another spear, but actually entangles the enemy weapon and allows you to disarm them more easily. This philosophy carries over to armor, where there's more choices to be made. Prices are high, weight matters, and you have to make difficult choices about how to spend your gold. Most starting characters can't afford an armor better than studded leather, and this forces players to turn to helmets and shields for cost-effective armor increases. A few points of armor is a big deal and goes a long way. Now, in most games, equipment basically stops here. Characters might buy rations or a tent, but the choices of other equipment is very limited. But not in Ambition and Avarice. There are 120 items in the adventuring gear section alone. And it doesn't stop there. Each item actually impacts the game, from simple effects like extra hit point recovery from sleeping in a bedroll to 10 different types of poisons and mind-altering substances. Arsenic, for example, is a tasteless poison. Discreetly added to food or drink, it causes 1d6 damage and 1 point of intelligence loss, followed by 1d6 days of horrific, debilitating symptoms. Another example is alcohol, which increases your charisma until it doesn't. Once again, the philosophy is to magnify the impact of player choice and encourage old school play through interaction with the common environment rather than using video game-like powers and abilities. And again, it doesn't stop there. Ambition and Avarice spells are paired with catalysts. Having the right catalyst in your hand when you're casting will boost your spell in some way. For example, Beam of Light is a first level spell used to conjure a glowing quarterstaff. It has the standard characteristics of a quarterstaff, dealing 1d6 damage with a +1 armor bonus for its defensive nature, but having a blueberry on hand when casting will let you boost that damage by 2 points and gain another point of armor class bonus. And of course, these items show up as treasure, so finding chunks of olibanum resin, aka frankincense, is a great financial reward or spellcasting boon, rather than just another thing. And again, it doesn't stop there. Ambition and Avarice monsters leave behind trophies that can be used for unique game effects or sold as treasure. Harvest and eat the fruit of an assassin vine to have a chance at true love, or just sell it for 300 gold. A basilisk tooth can be wielded as an improvisational dagger, dealing significant damage, or use the paws of an armitage, a pyromaniac fey-like creature, as a kind of improvised incendiary grenade. Together, all of these equipment options put enormous capabilities in the hands of the players, and they're not tied to class abilities. Instead of just handing out 500 gold in treasure, you could have your players stumble on a Kari gum tree or a gnomish garden of blue-cap mushrooms. And as their inventory grows, the number of potential in-game solutions to their problems magnifies exponentially. Pillar 4 is the adjudication rules themselves. Ambition and Avarice makes a clear distinction regarding levels of choice. The players must choose their own direction at the campaign level, they must choose what adventures they take on, and they must choose how they're going to approach each encounter. All of these levels are essential to ensuring that the players are in control of their own destiny and able to develop the player skills necessary to accomplish their own goals. They also have to choose their own leader, the vanguard, to be the voice of the party. Now, certain classes bring an advantage to this. Rangers are better in the wilderness, and veterans are beneficial if you're about to go into combat, but nothing is assured. With few exceptions, we encourage random reaction rolls for most encounters and randomized encounter sizes. So if the party runs into a band of fire newts, the judge should roll 2d6 to see how many show up, and the result is anything from a pair of scouts to a war band of a full dozen. And with a 2d6 reaction roll, they could be aggressive or predatory or friendly and open to trade. These two rolls create a range of outcomes without the judge being in control, so that the players have to deal with it using their wits. They might retreat from an aggressive warband or trade with a friendly one. They might attack a vulnerable scouting party or try to exchange information and talk to a friendly one. At the end of the day, the choice is theirs to make, not the judges. The focus on player choice continues with movement rules and location familiarity, creating a specific mechanic for the players to gain knowledge of locations over the horizon so they can make meaningful choices about where to go from here. And this is combined with a survival and hazard rule set to make the world more dangerous than just a bunch of monster lairs. Combat rules are simple and clear, with 8 easily understood combat actions and a simple 1d6 group initiative. But even if you lose that initial rush, one of the combat actions is called Seize the Initiative, allowing you to increase your own initiative score and eventually take back control of the battle from the enemy. There are even rules for establishing your own domain, gaining a noble title, if you can clear a hex and get political sanction for it. And there are also rules for improving your domain with a variety of structures, from your own fortifications to building sections of your own underground dungeon. All of this supports the players in making their own choices about how to interact with the game world, beyond just clearing out dungeons. Pillar 5 is the Cosmology and Magic systems. Ambition and Avarice divides the divine management of the mortal world into portfolios, organized by alignment. Each portfolio represents the flow of divine energy, and as the number of beings worshiping a particular portfolio grows, the power of that deity grows. There are also several types of deities. A major god controls an entire portfolio category, such as the community or the luminous, and minor gods control only a subcategory, such as fellowship or prophecy. A demigod controls a single portfolio, such as festivals or spectacle. This layered approach explains the differential power level between deities. Now, in most games, whether OSR or traditional, players have very little interaction with the gods. D&D typically envisions them as a level 20 monster, really. But most medieval fantasy religion is also nonsensical bunk, and characters have no real reason to even roleplay their religion accurately, aside from the threat of just taking away their power. Ambition and Avarice changed this completely. The Zealot class worships a major or a minor god. Their class abilities include building temples to this god, where they can create locations to cast additional spells per day and heal more effectively. The unique class follower is a curate, a kind of religious retainer that maintains this temple on their behalf. And remember, congregations make donations. All of this together creates an incentive for the player to spread their character's religion. The cultist class, in contrast, worships a demigod. Unlike a distant deity, the demigod is actually quasi-mortal and may actually interact with the cultist. Cultists build their shrines in wilderness or out-of-the-way locations and sacrifice victims to their demigod, forcibly taking the energy of that individual and transferring it to a different god, increasing the demigod's power. Their followers are called disciples, who grow and spread the cult in secrecy, and the rest of the player characters fall somewhere in between these two classes, giving their support to one deity or another. In Ambition and Avarice, religion is transformed from an afterthought to a central concern of the religious player. This same philosophy continues with magic item design. Magic items are created through the 5th level enchantment spell. However, they also have to be paired with an additional spell to determine the effect. The empowerment spell improves the nature of the object you're enchanting, such as adding a to-hit bonus or a flame effect. Wondrous Power is a spell that creates triggered magic effects. Spell storage allows you to save spells in the object itself, such as when you're creating a classic rod or wizard's staff. And Bestow Curse allows you to bring a vicious cursed item into the world. Now, each of these spells comes with a base technique. This is a simple procedure to produce the standard item of that design, such as a +1 sword if you're using empowerment. Now, if you want to design something stronger than that, you have to actually go out and learn the technique needed to produce that desired effect. For example, to create a vampiric weapon, you have to capture a live vampire and drain their life force as a part of the casting process. There are also simpler magic items called augments that can be crafted. Now, glyph is used to store magic energy in a sigil, which is then released under specified conditions. Potions are really just drinkable spells with the target of self. Totems are small figures that store magic energy for spontaneous casters and let them cast spells even after their daily allotment is exhausted. And scrolls perform a similar function for prepared casters, saving a spell for a rainy day. Now, all of these choices allow players to build their own magical equipment. They don't have to buy them from a magic store in a big city, as if such a thing even makes sense. And when you find a vampiric greatsword, well, you certainly aren't going to sell it for anything less than a barony. And then there is spell choice alone. Ambition and Avarice is packed with a vast number of spells for players to choose from at every level. Pillar 6 is Good Judgment. And that's a bit of a pun since we use the term judge for the game master or dungeon master who's running the game. But there's 3 tasks that the judge is responsible for: creating the world, describing the world, and adjudicating the rules. Now, we're clear in our expectations. The judge is not supposed to be a storyteller. They're responsible for setting up the field, giving the players the ball, and enforcing the rules. But the game is played by the players, not the judge. One of the great failures of modern gaming, in my opinion, is putting too much weight on the person running the game, thus creating this so-called Dungeon Master shortage. Now, Ambition and Avarice uses randomization tools like the reaction tables we discussed previously to take that responsibility off the judge's shoulders. The judge decided you ran into ogres. Now, the number of ogres, their feelings about the party and whatnot, that's a roll of the dice. We support the judge with guidance on how to perform their creation task, with advice on populating the world, crafting its religions and cultures, and filling it with NPCs. We provide an attitude role mechanic to determine how NPCs feel about the player that they meet, and a system of favor and disfavor to represent long-term affection or hostility. This takes the guesswork out of running the town as well. You don't have to plan out the innkeeper's feelings about this or that. Their feelings can be determined with a roll of the dice. But as the saying goes, we stand on the shoulders of giants. We use design tropes to help the inexperienced judge build their world using the wisdom of others. The basis are core tropes. The dangerous thing, a monster or trap, whatever. The interesting thing, like a strange machine or old carving. And the valuable thing, aka treasure. We also describe a trope not to use, the MacGuffin. It represents a slippery slope that leads to taking away agency from the players and sending them off on some damn fool errand because you want them to go that way. Avoid this at all costs. Now, from this foundation, we can build out 32 derived tropes. These are classic dungeon rooms or encounters that you can put into your world, such as the room that's different when the players pass through a second time, or the seemingly helpless captive who's anything but. Now, from this guidance, we seek to build better judges and, in the long run, better players. Pillar 7 is good opposition. Ambition and Avarice is packed with 196 monsters with easily referenced classic stat blocks. Now, this includes classic monsters like the giant ant, but also new ideas like the annoying bard who appears friendly but annoys the players so much that they eventually turn on him. The undead also come with techniques similar to those used in crafting magic items that allow anyone with the necrostasis spell and the know-how to create powerful undead allies. Just don't tell the more religious members of your party. So taken together, these 7 pillars of player development support a mission to put the power in the hands of players, ease up on the responsibilities of running the game, and give you a better game experience at the table. So check out Ambition and Avarice today at drivethrurpg.com. It's available in PDF and print-on-demand hardback. Thanks for listening.